All right, ladies, so here is part 2 of utilizing the quadratic formula. So in these examples, our radicals will not simplify as nicely, and we will also encounter some imaginary solutions. So let's go ahead, let's get started. So again, we're going to use the same steps as before. So with number 7, I can clearly see that I'm not equal to 0. So I'm going to need to bring this 4x over to the other side. He's a positive 4x, so I'm going to subtract him over. And I'm going to put him in the middle because I know that x typically correlates with my b term, right? So I'm going to have x squared minus 4x minus 9, and that will be equal to 0 because 4x minus 4x will give me 0. So let's go ahead, let's label our a, b, and c. So my a will be 1, my b will be negative 4, and my c will be negative 9. So let's go ahead, let's plug this into our formula. So we have x is equal to the opposite of b, which will be 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so let's go ahead, let's simplify everybody under the radical. So we will have x is equal to 4 plus or minus, and everything under the radical will simplify to be the square root of 52 all over, and 2 times 1 will be 2. All right, so the square root of 52 is not a perfect square, right? So we can't simplify that super nicely. But this does break up into something nice. So this will be actually the square root of 4 times the square root of 13. We know that 4 is perfect, so the 4 will be able to come out, but this 13 will have to stay inside, right? So when I have the square root of 4, I know that 2 will come out, and this 13 will have to stay there, right? So let's go ahead, let's simplify this. So again, we simplified this square root of 52 to be 2 square root 13. Again, all I did was just divide out by perfect numbers. I saw that 4 went in. When I took the square root of 4, I got 2. And the square root of 13, there's really nothing I can do with him, so he has to stay there. So again, let's rewrite this. So I have x is equal to 4 plus or minus 2 square root 13 all over 2. Okay, so we can simplify this a little bit. I have two equations here, right? I have 4 plus 2 square root 13 over 2, and I also have 4 minus 2 square root 13 over 2. Something that I want to point out is that 4 and 2 are divisible by 2. And the same thing over here, 4 and negative 2 are also divisible by 2. So let's go ahead and simplify that. So 4 divided by 2 will give me 2. Plus 2 divided by 2 will just be 1 square root 13. Do I really need to put the 1 in front? Not really. I'm just going to put square root 13. And I'm going to do the same thing with the second little setup I have going on here. 4 divided by 2 will give me 2. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 will give me negative 1. I'm not really going to put the 1 there, but I will put the square root of 13. Okay, so my two answers will be my little cute little squiggly. I have 2, and remember, as one of the examples before, I can just put plus or minus square root of 13, or if you want, you can write the answer like this as well. So I have 2 minus square root 13, and I have 2 plus square root 13. Either one works for me, okay? Let's look at number 8. So I need to have everybody on the right side before I can start, right? So I'm going to bring this 1 over. He's a negative, so I will add him over. And I need to subtract this 8x over. He doesn't really have anybody I can, work with, so I'm just going to put him right in the middle. This will go away. This will also go away. So I have negative 2x squared minus 8x. I couldn't combine x squared and x, right? You can only combine like terms. But 17 and 1 can combine. So 17 plus 1 will give me a positive 18. Okay, so now what do I have to do? Well, I have to label my A, B, and C, right? So let's go ahead, let's label our A, B, and C. So I know my A will be a negative 2, my b will be negative 8, and my c will be a positive 18. So let's start with our formula. So I have x is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4a, which is negative 2, and c, which is 18, all over 2a, which is negative 2. Okay, looks great. So I got x is equal to 8 plus or minus the square root. And let's see, let's look at Desmos. Let's see what this nonsense simplifies to. This will be 208. And this will be all over 2 times negative 2, which will give me negative 4. Okay, so 208, clearly not a perfect square, but I can reduce this a little bit, right? So let's go ahead, let's do that. So I have, let's see, 208 is divisible by 16. And it is what? 16 times 13. Oh, funny, another square root 13. Okay, cool. So we know that the square root of 16 is perfect. Again, I just divided 208 by a bunch of perfect squares, and I saw that 16 worked. The square root of 16 simplifies to be 4, and I cannot do anything with the square root of 13, so he's got to just hang out. He's got to stay there. So let's go ahead, let's rewrite this. So I have x is equal to 8 plus or minus, and we know that the square root of 208 simplifies to be 4 square root 13. And this, again, is all over negative 4. So again, we have two situations here we got to take care of. I have 8 plus 4 square root 13 all over negative 4. And I have 8 minus 4 square root 13 all over negative 4. Okay, so as we mentioned with our prior problem, 8, 4, they are both divisible by negative 4. And the same thing down here. Just be careful with your signs, okay, ladies, because I can already see that being a problem. So 8 divided by negative 4 will give me a negative 2. And a positive 4 divided by 4 will give me a negative 1. I'm just going to not put the 1 there. You can totally put it there if you want, but I'm just going to write my square root of 13. Okay, and let's simplify this next one. 8 divided by negative 4 will give me a negative 2. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 will give me a positive 1, and I still have my square root of 13. So here are my two answers. I have x is equal to negative 2 plus or minus square root of 13, or you can write it as, oh wow, that is a fugly x. Or you can also write it as x is equal to negative 2 minus square root 13 and negative 2 plus square root 13. Okay, looks great. So let's see. Number 9. So let's look at this. We need to rewrite this, right, because we don't have an equals 0. So I'm going to subtract 4. So I have negative 8x squared, and 7 minus 4 will give me 3. Okay, so again, I have an ABC problem, right? I am missing my b because I don't have a term with just an x. So I have an a, which is negative 8, and I have a b, which is 0, and a c, which will be 3. So let's go ahead, let's simplify this. I have my x is equal to the opposite of b, which is still 0, plus or minus b squared, which is 0, minus 4a, which is negative 8, c, which is 3, all over 2a, which is 2 times negative 8. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's simplify what we have under this radical. So I have x is equal to 0 plus or minus, and what does this nonsense simplify to be? 96. So I got 96 all over, and 2 times negative 8 will give me a negative 16. So let's see, 96 definitely can be broken up. So let's break this guy up. Let me see. What do I divide by? oh, okay, 16 and 6 will work. So this breaks up to be the square root of 16 and the square root of 6. We know that the square root of 16 is perfect. That will break up to be 4. And I cannot do anything about the square root of 6. So let's go ahead, let's rewrite this. So I have x is equal to 0 plus or minus 4 square root 6 all over negative 16. Let's rewrite our two examples. So I have 0 plus 4 square root 6 over negative 16, and I have 0 minus 4 square root 6 all over negative 16. Something I want to point out. You cannot touch the number under the radical, okay? When I am simplifying, I can only simplify with the number outside, okay? So again, do not mess with this number right here. Do not touch him. If he cannot be pulled out of the house, I cannot mess with him, okay? So again, I'm just going to be messing with the numbers outside of my radical, outside of that little house. Those are the only ones I can simplify. So I know that 4 over 16 does simplify. That will be 1 over 4, so I'm just going to have negative square root 6 over 4. And let's see, this one down here, negative over negative will be positive. I will have 1 over 4, so I have a positive square root 6 over 4. So here we go, let's write our answer. So I have x is equal to plus or minus square root 6 over 4. Again, I cannot touch numbers underneath the radical, okay? I cannot mess with those numbers at all. All right, so let's look at number 10. What do we got going on here? So right off the bat, I can see that I'm not simplified in the way that I need it to be. It's not in standard form. So what I need to do right off the bat is I need to move this 8 over. So I'm going to move him over. He's positive, so I'm going to subtract. So let's see, minus 8, minus 8. There's nothing really to combine with here. He will be a constant, and he will be at the end of our standard form. So I'm going to have negative x squared plus 10x minus 8. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's label our a, b, and c. A will be negative 1, B will be 10, and C will be negative 8. Okay, so we are ready to go ahead and plug into our beautiful little equation. So I got x is equal to the opposite of b, which will be negative 10, plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so I got x is equal to negative 10 plus or minus. Let's simplify everybody underneath this radical. That's going to be, let's see, 68. Again, just throw it in Desmos, pause. You don't have to wait for me to give you the answers. You guys are totally competent. I know you can do it. And this will be all over negative 2. Okay, so square root of 68 definitely does simplify. So let's think about this. So let's see, 68, okay, that can be 4 and 17. So this simplifies into the square root of 4 and the square root of 17. 4 we know is perfect, so the square root of 4 is 2. And I cannot do anything with the square root of 17. Okay, so let's rewrite this. So I have x is equal to negative 10 plus or minus 2 square root 17 all over negative 2. I have my two situations I got to think of. So I have negative 10 plus 2 square root 17 over negative 2. And I have negative 10 minus 2 square root 17 over negative 2. Again, these can simplify like we did before. I'm just going to change my color so you can see a little bit better. Negative 10 divided by negative 2 will be a positive 5. And 2 divided by negative 2 will be a negative 1. I'm not going to write the 1, but I will still have square root of 17. Okay, let's do the second one. So negative 10 divided by negative 2 will give me 5. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 will be a positive 1 that I'm not going to write down, but I will keep that square root of 17. I'm going to undo that scribble that I just did. I just didn't like the way it looked. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's write our answer. So I have x is equal to, and I can write 5 plus or minus the square root of 17. Okay, 2 more. So I believe that these ones will have imaginary solutions, so let's give these a shot. So again, imaginary solutions occur whenever we have a negative value underneath the radical. So really there's nothing too crazy that's happening here. Just keep in mind that we're going to do it the same exact way as normal. We'll just have an I, right? So nothing crazy happening, we'll just have an I. So again, I'm going to label my A, B, and C. It's already equal to 0. So I have A is negative 3, B is 8, and C is negative 7. So I have x is equal to the opposite of B, plus or minus B squared minus 4AC all over 2 times A, which is negative 3. All right, so let's go ahead, let's simplify everybody underneath this radical. So I have x is equal to negative 8 plus or minus. Everybody under that radical will simplify to be a negative 20. And then 2 times negative 3 will give me a negative 6. Okay, let's simplify our 2 equations. Oh, actually, wait. First, let's simplify that negative 20. So negative 20 can simplify. We know we have a negative number, right? So I'll definitely have an I. And 20 breaks up into square root of 4 times square root of 5. The square root of 4 does simplify. That will give me 2. So I will have 2i, and I can't do anything about the square root of 5, so he's just going to stay there chilling. Okay, so let's rewrite this. So I have x is equal to negative 8 plus or minus 2i square root 5 all over negative 6. Let's go ahead, let's write our 2 little answers out. So I got negative 8 plus 2i square root 5 over negative 6. And I have negative 8 minus 2i square root 5 over negative 6. So my first one, 8, 2, and 6, they're all even, so we can definitely simplify. I will have, let's see, negative 8 over negative 6, both divisible by 2. So I'll have 4/3. You can keep everything written in the numerator. That's totally fine as well. So I have 4 plus, and 2 over 6 when I'm dividing, because they're both evens. That 2 will go away, and I'm just left with I square root 5. Because again, 2 over 6 will be 1/3. Do I really need to write that one? No, I don't. One thing that I did forget to change, though, was my symbol. So negative over negative gave me a positive 4, but a positive over a negative, this should be a negative. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's look at the second one. So I have negative 8 over negative 6. That will once again give me a positive 4/3. Negative 2 over negative 6, that will give me a positive 1/3. Do I really need to write the 1? Nope. So I'm just going to have I square root 5 left over. All right, so I have x is equal to 4 plus or minus I square root 5 all over 3. Okay, and last one. So clearly not equal to 0. I need to move over the 4x and the 5. They're both positive, so I'm going to subtract both over. So minus 4x, there's nothing really to combine it with over here, so I'm just going to write him in the middle. And he's a positive 5, so I'm going to subtract him. And I'm going to combine him with the 9, since they're both constants. So I will have a 0 on this side. I have 5x squared minus 4x. And 9 minus 5 gives me 4. Okay, so I have my A, B, and C. So A is 5, B is negative 4, and C is 4. So let's write out our equation. X is equal to the opposite of B, plus or minus B squared, minus 4AC, all over 2A, which is 5. Okay, so let's look at what's underneath our radical. Let's simplify. So I got x is equal to 4 plus or minus, let's see, negative 4 squared minus 4 times 5 times 4, that's going to give me negative 64. And this will be all over 10 since 2 times 5 gives me 10. Okay, let's go ahead and let's simplify my negative 64 underneath that radical. So again, as mentioned before, I'm not worried about the negative sign. That just means I'll have an I. And 64 is perfect, so that will simplify to be 8. And I'm just going to put the 8 in front. So I have, let's rewrite this. So I have x is equal to 4 plus or minus 8i all over 10. And let's simplify. I have 4 plus 8i over 10 and 4 minus 8i over 10. They are all divisible by 2, so let's just divide everybody by 2. So that's going to be 2 plus 4i over 5 and 2 minus 4i over 5. Let's go ahead and write our answer out. So I have x is equal to 2 plus or minus 4i over 5. Okay, so that pretty much completes part 2, which, kind of goes over those radicals that are not perfect, and it also includes examples with imaginary solutions. Please reach out if you guys need any help. If you guys see any patterns, go ahead, simplify however you're comfortable. Just check in with me, make sure that you guys are getting the right answer, okay? So good luck, and let me know if you guys need any help, okay?